Hi, this is TJR. I've just finished watching episodes 17 and 18, the season finale of Twin Peaks Season 3, The Return. Before I get started, I do want to stress these are my first reactions, having just watched it and having watched it only once. And I do reserve the right to come back at a later time and perhaps reflect on this after I've had a chance to think about it longer and rewatch it. Prior to the premiere of Season 3, I made a video where I just pondered on my thoughts on the works of David Lynch and my thoughts on the series and the Fire Walk With Me motion picture and what I thought we might be in store for with the new third season. And of course, in that video, I said that I am sure that all of our expectations will be subverted and that we will be taken down corridors that none of us expect. And that I think I might have said that we will probably get an ending that we'll be talking about for many years to come. But I also think we may have gotten an ending that we will be arguing about for some time to come as well. There are a lot of scenes in David Lynch's films that have chilled me to the core and have terrified me more than even the most frightening of horror films. I remember the ending of Season 2, those sequences inside of the Red Room, or perhaps it was the Black Lodge. I'm not 100% sure, and I never have been, and I'm not sure that anybody watching is 100% sure either. But I remember those scenes were some of the most terrifying scenes that I'd seen anywhere, and not just on television. But nothing could have prepared me for how terrified I felt at the very ending, after we thought that Dale Cooper had made it out of the Red Room. And when he banged his head against the mirror and started to laugh and said, "How's Annie?" And we saw Bob's reflection in the mirror, and we knew this wasn't Dale Cooper. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most frightening ending I've ever seen in my life. Because when that episode aired, I already knew there wasn't going to be a third season. So I took this as the series finale. I was not aware that it had been written and produced with the intention that there would be a third season to follow up on it. Just before the closing credits of episode 18, after Laura Palmer screamed, after the lights went out in what was once the Palmer home, and after everything went to black, and before we saw that image of Laura whispering into Agent Cooper's ear, I said out loud, "It just can't end like this." And then it did. This was not the shock jolt ending that we got in the original series of Season 2. Just like with the ending of Season 2, we did get a scary ending, but not a shocking jolt one. Instead, this was a slow burn scary ending. A slow and creeping, horrific realization that only starts to hit you when Agent Cooper stops and asks, "Wait, what year is this?" And then Laura Palmer screams. And then everything goes to black. Some of David Lynch's films have had very frightening endings. Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway. And while some of his films have taken us to scary places, they've had very positive endings. Wild at Heart and Blue Velvet. As a longtime fan of Lynch's work, you might very well think it very gullible of me to think that we'd get a satisfying conclusion at the end of Season 3. And I really did think that we'd have a more satisfying conclusion than this. The Twin Peaks prequel film, Fire Walk With Me, had some tremendously frightening moments. But at the end, I found it to be a very spiritual film with a very spiritual, satisfying ending. And it did seem to feel like we were heading towards some very satisfyingly positive ending when Agent Cooper finally came back. when the evil Cooper was finally defeated by Lucy, of all people. And even Bob was defeated, destroyed into bits by Freddy with his amazing superpowered green Playtex glove. A couple of episodes back, I commented on Freddy and said, hey, he's the superhero of this series. And sure enough, he was. And as all this was happening during the first part of episode 17, something in the back of my head kept saying, wait a minute. This is all happening way too fast. This should be happening in episode 18, not 17. And that got me really thinking, what is yet to come? And that began to put a lot of fear into the back of my head. But even then I held out hope. It looked like Agent Cooper was going to go back and rescue Laura Palmer from ever being murdered, and it looks like he did. But now they've been led into some kind of purgatory existence, forever caught in a loop, trying to get Laura Palmer back home. And then this dawns on Laura Palmer, and she screams. I am as baffled by this ending as I was by the ending of Lost Highway. But as the years have gone by, I've learned to understand the ending of Lost Highway a lot better. And who knows, perhaps with time, I will understand the ending of Twin Peaks: The Return better as well. I knew going in that not all the mysteries of Twin Peaks would be answered. But I did expect more answers than we got. Yes, we did get some conclusions. We certainly got a conclusion for Janie and Sonny Jim and Dougie. We did get a conclusion for Norma and Big Ed, something I never expected. But there were too many things that felt like they needed to be answered that weren't. For instance, where did Audrey finally wake up? It really felt like this needed to be tied in to this series finale. And that brings me to the next question. Was this in fact a series finale? Prior to Season 3's premiere, everything I had read indicated that this was it. This was the final word on Twin Peaks. Now I wonder if this is just the end of Season 3 and that we are going to get a Season 4, even though it hasn't been announced yet. It sure feels that way. At this point, I'm just going to stop. I want to know what your reactions are. I'm going to take a little time to process all of this, think about it, and maybe rewatch those last 2 episodes again. In fact, hey, maybe even rewatch the entire series. And then maybe I might talk about it again. In the meantime, I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open for any news about a Season 4. And in case you're wondering, I still wouldn't have traded those last 18 hours for anything. This is TJR. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also please be sure to turn on notifications so you can know when I release new videos. It's late now, and I need to go to bed and dream about dark and troubling things. But I will try to remind myself that in heaven, everything is fine.